Welcome to Maintenance Matters, a podcast by Marshall Institute, capturing conversations with industrial maintenance and reliability professionals about their successes, challenges, and stories. Enjoy the episode.
Hello, and welcome back. Thanks again for joining us on the Maintenance Matters podcast. And today I have Russ Nelson with me with ESG. I'll let him introduce himself, and we'll just kind of wiggle through some questions on how the current COVID-19 economic situation, how things are affecting the business. And this has got a little bit more of a facilities slant to it. I'll let Russ explain his business, but it's going to have a little bit more of a facilities angle as we go through this. So Russ, you want to introduce yourselves? Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and where you're located, that kind of thing.
Certainly, Greg, thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to sharing hopefully some things that are of interest to people and helpful. I work for Energy Systems Group. It's going on 21 years with them. Prior to that, I've been with Honeywell and Johnson Controls for the start of my career, but generally very focused on the infrastructure systems of buildings, heating, cooling systems, lighting systems, plumbing, but all aspects of commercial building operations. And we're always very focused on the operating expenses associated with them and trying to help companies and businesses make upgrades to their facilities without necessarily using capital dollars. We attempt to find ways to leverage savings and monetize those from energy and maintenance expenses.
Okay. And how, I know you have a broader mission relative to the entire facility and capital and operating costs, things like that, but how does the maintenance side of things affect the facilities that you have work going on in?
So the biggest thing that we see is, and I'll be very straightforward here, the worse maintenance is, the better it is for our opportunities in general. And by that I should explain, but if people take excellent care of their facilities, at times their systems and buildings are going to last much longer and not have the pressing needs of capital upgrades and replacing equipment on emergency spending basis. So where we see people doing really, I'll call it a C or worse kind of job, a D or an E or total failure, that's real opportunity to make improvements to the equipment, replace things that just haven't been maintained properly and are really hurting reliability, hurting consistent comfort, and without question, the worse equipment runs, it tends to be more energy intensive. One thing I didn't share, I live in Tennessee. I'm in the northeast corner, right against Virginia and North Carolina, right on the mountains. And we have a variety of climates here. And at times, the different climates really require people to have their systems work properly. And as we switch into another season, it just adds requirements on properly maintained systems. And if they're not, it often shows up when we switch seasons. So.
Interesting. Yeah, and I know you guys get to work on the premise of a business case and return on investment a lot with what you're doing, which is really, really interesting. So explain a little bit about how you see that connection between when people aren't maintaining assets and the dollars and cents that you see on the output side. What do you see on that side?
Sure. So I'll kind of go directly to sort of the top of an organization. I think at times there isn't an appreciation for the value of maintenance. And if there's what I'll call an easy cut in terms of reducing expenses, oftentimes the maintenance department is going to be that area. And on the other side of it, it's the place where one might make investments in really highly trained staff. Oftentimes that takes a hit in terms of people's decisions on budgets. So without question, what I would call these things are very short-sighted decisions. If I can use the gardening analogy, it takes a long time to grow an orchard, but then you've got a substantial return ongoing from that. And I think to grow a really excellent maintenance department takes that investment, and to keep your buildings and equipment operating really at peak reliability, and having an asset replacement schedule. That's all forward thinking and long-term thinking. Many of the folks we deal with, I'm going to call them tomato farmers. If they don't plant some tomatoes every year, they don't get any. And it's just a very short-sighted deal. So that's a challenge you guys are very aware of, though.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's interesting. I know that in the facilities work that we've done, we see that. So it's always about maintaining the output of the organization, right? But in a facilities organization, you're maintaining the capacity to, service the group that's using that, right? So if you've got, whether it's a classroom that can't meet and that output is shut down, or whether it's the CEO and his staff having a meeting up on the corporate headquarters, those things will have significant impact on the mission of that facility to serve its function. And so just like in, production plants where we're trying to put out potatoes or tomatoes or French fries or whatever it is that we're pulling and pushing, and there's a mission for that facility that it does not serve when those assets fail or do not work as efficiently. I really like your tie into the fact that as I think in facilities, it's more apparent that as assets age and reduce in efficiency, it costs more money to operate those assets as well as maintain those assets. And that's universal across all assets, but it's very evident, I think, in electric bills and the things that you're seeing in a facilities organization. So that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, and one thing I would add, and I think this is true of different areas beyond facilities, but you can turn out a product. In this case, let's call it 72-degree comfort in a facility, and it can take twice as much energy to do that if systems aren't working correctly.
Sure.
And so at times the ability for groups to have really good data to look at and the time to really review that data, I think they're two different things. And one of the things Energy Systems Group tries to do for people is give them better abilities to look at dashboarding, where in one look they're able to tell we're nowhere near where we were last year on this measure, we've slipped, or we're improving. But oftentimes a sea of data does nothing for you. It's that very condensed quick look that becomes kind of the expectation at leadership. Show us how that dashboard looked last month. So that's a culture change too.
Yeah, it's turning that data into information, right? It's taking that sea of salty water and high volume and making this pure, clear glass of water that you can actually produce something with. And yeah, no, it's an interesting environment that you guys work in. So, and I understand from previous conversations that certainly a segment of what you do is in educational spaces, whether that's K through 12 or universities and different things like that. How has the pandemic and the economic situation that's ensued, how's that affected those facilities and then ultimately your support for those facilities?
Sure. So the K-12 space, as everybody is well aware, if they have school-age kids and if not, basically those folks have been forced to shut down entirely. So that's created a huge amount of challenge and we'll call it some opportunity. But as far as core missions go, their ability to continue to provide learning outcomes has required teachers and staff of all types to go to a distant learning challenge. In a lot of cases, they didn't have the infrastructure to do that. So that's been a quick change they've attempted to make. And then really what everybody wants to know is what's school going to look like, or whether it's higher education or K-12 come August. Some folks start September, but is it going to be normal? Probably not. What are the safety procedures and cleaning procedures? What are the distancing options? And in a lot of cases, it's a huge challenge for these folks to determine those things, especially if guidelines aren't or specific directives aren't given to them from some level of leadership at a state level or national. So a lot of folks are doing their very best to create, I'll call it 3 plans. And one of my clients recently explained their 3 plans included pure remote learning, and this is a K-12 school district, a full option for students to do remote learning if they or their parents weren't comfortable being in an environment with lots of people. And then just regular school with all types of considerations given to extra sanitation, to extra distancing, things like not eating lunch in the lunchroom, because that puts a lot of people in one place, but having students eat in the classrooms. So many challenges. And when it comes to the maintenance department side of things, their main day job has not gone away, which is taking care of the basics of the building. So they're attempting to accommodate a lot of different things. They're also being asked now more and more, what is our heating cooling system doing in terms of fresh air?
Sure.
One thing that the Center for Disease Control is starting to ask state school systems is, help us understand what you're doing to manage proper indoor air quality and dictate specific standards there. And that has not been anything other than a general engineering requirement. So nobody's really policed that at all or inspected that. So that's something different for them. It should be something they do all the time. But I would say for everybody listening, the obvious thing is this virus has been clearly transferred much more so through the air and close contact. So what we often find is a lot of ventilation systems, number one, just aren't even running. Second, they may have a source for incoming fresh air, but not a proper path for exhaust air. There are all types of challenges there on the heating cooling systems. And I think the one good thing of this whole endeavor is that it is forcing people probably to ask themselves, are our buildings properly ventilated? And is the filtration as good as it can be? So
interesting. Yeah, I think one of the hallmarks of the time period that we're in right now is there is an amazing amount of flexibility and adaptability that's been, just thrust on people. And it's interesting. I mean, our business is impacted by many of those things that you just talked about. Fortunately, we had some structure in place. We had learning management system and a content development system, so we could push out virtual learning very quickly. But it has put all of our business in this, how do I adapt to this new environment? And I think one of the biggest hallmarks of it is it's not only a new environment, but we don't even know what the future looks like, right? Like you say, we're putting 3 plans together to kind of get the best bet that we'll have something that works. And I know I'm just thrilled with the Marshall team as to how they have adapted and just taken this challenge and turned it into just fruitful opportunity, so I think there's a lot of that going on. I think the school systems are, I don't have a lot of close contact, but I know that we're discovering methodologies that the situation has thrust us into that we're like, hey, we're going to keep doing that, right? And I think the school systems are going to have a lot of that going on as well. So the impact today on a maintenance group that is in one of those schools that's kind of shuttered down, I mean, how do you think the groups are dealing with? Are they rotating people? Are they furloughing people? Are they just kind of keeping things clicking along, doing projects? What's your read on that?
So in general, I think a lot of school districts have had I'll call it the luxury to not furlough people. And some of that depends on just how much a given school's economy is tied to a service industry or some specific industry that was or wasn't as affected. But generally, those employees, as an example, one school district I work with, pretty much in the middle of everybody going to lockdown, they just said, we're assuming we're done until next school year. So we're going to go ahead and do full-on summer cleaning now.
Okay.
So they kept people busy, plenty social distance, all those things. But so people are doing what they can to stay busy. There also been challenges just in terms of construction related things to replace equipment and renovate buildings. At times, we just can't get our engineering teams and project management teams and construction groups to do the things they're used to doing. So as you use the word accommodate, a lot of accommodating has needed to go on. And some of that hasn't been too big a deal, and other aspects of it have really challenged us to stay on track with revenue expectations and just deadlines that we set with the client for completing improvements. So, but overall, I would say a lot of the school and higher ed education in general, maintenance departments, they've had empty buildings. And so to a degree, they've kind of had a little bit of a gap here to catch up on special projects. But then the question is going to be, what's this new reality going to look like? And are we all going to be involved in sanitizing in some respects? Many changes probably coming.
Do you think any of the sanitation, especially relative to the education system, all these new sanitation procedures, it seems like it's going to have some impact on the maintenance organization going forward? How do you see the maintenance organization changing as we kind of regain some physical footage, but have to introduce a lot of new procedures? How do you think that's going to affect the maintenance organization?
Yeah, and that's a great question. The different organizational structures, and I can't necessarily argue for one over another, but there is definitely a blending of custodial functions, and I'll call them more cleaning functions with maintenance functions. And I think a lot of staff are going to get pulled into more of the cleaning functions. Depending on what really are set as best practices and requirements for sanitation, that's going to require more staff. I know. Yeah,
and I also think that, like you said, the cleaning of the air systems, the balancing of the air systems, so air exchange is happening. I mean, we've all been in that building where the door is just either sucked closed or blown open, right? So I think those things are going to take on a bigger persona, right? In how we humidity control. I mean, all those things that are at least going to potentially have some impact on the sanitation of the building, as well as when you get over into the custodial side. One thing that really has struck me is a lot of the procedures that we put in place for operators, cleaning equipment, basic equipment care. So when you get done running your machine, here's the things we want you to do. Those same disciplines are going to allow us to clean that equipment, sanitize that equipment properly for the next shift, right? And I think there's an analogy over into the facility side, because the same procedures that we're doing just our day-to-day cleaning and custodial cleaning with, we're now going to be tightening those procedures on the custodial side. And then I think it's going to affect the maintenance, the pure HVAC kind of maintenance and that kind of thing as well.
Yeah. One thing that we are seeing is the need to really consider what our entities doing with their air handling equipment to actually add either ultraviolet cleaning or ionization cleaning technologies. But again, if we say what good is going to come out of this long term, I think it's that a lot of us have been in buildings a long time with really marginal air quality. And it's one of those invisible things, but it isn't that hard to improve it substantially. So if this brings proper focus to what that looks like and how to inspect it on a regular basis, I think that's going to be a really beneficial outcome.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's one of the things we've seen as well is amidst all the chaos, we've seen some beneficial things that have come out of the fray of this whole thing as well, and so you just named one is if we do focus better on the air quality, that's something that's really pretty big. And I like your point about it. It's invisible. We can't really see it. We can't, you can test some things, but I think the sense is the public expectation is going to be heightened through as we come out the other side of this tunnel here. So
I can throw you a concern if you'd like it.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, at least and everybody's got their own version of this story, but the more we determine that we can do things remotely, we're going to start to change the need for facilities. And so as a lot of school districts go, the concern is as remote learning starts to turned from just an idea that some parents would never have even considered to I've actually watched my child thrive with their own pace, and some of the aspects of really learning more on a video basis, computer basis. So I know that I've got school district leadership that are concerned that if they lose 10% students, they would not necessarily be that surprised. Some of that may just be fear that they don't want to come into an environment with the virus, but others might just say, you know what, it's easier for us not to have both of us work if it's a two-parent house, but there are just some dynamics that potentially are going to change here, whether that's a short-term thing or not. But, you know, a lot of this comes back to revenue, whether it's leasing commercial space, whether it's just a company feeling like they really don't need that office anymore. And so we just see some really big changes potentially, especially for the education world. Our higher education clients, some of them rightfully so are very concerned, but it's much less expensive to deliver education without sending people to live in a dormitory and all of those things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. Yeah, so yeah, we all have some concerns that once this is over, how is life different, right? How are things going to be different? Because we're going to have learned some things. We're going to be making some adjustments. There's going to be some people that are more afraid to you know, rejoin the social order, and there's going to be other people that are diving in head first already as we speak, and that mix is going to affect our future for sure. So if you go back 3 months in time and you know, or 4, and say, okay, I'm about to head into this, what advice would you give yourself that, you know, now that you've been through at least a portion of this thing and yet to be determined, but what would you do differently, or what would you see as some advice you might give yourself coming in?
That's a really, there's a lot to that question. You know, I think we're proving that life doesn't have to necessarily be as rigid as we thought it was. I would say in terms of advice, it's just enjoy the ride. There have been a lot of things related to this that have been helpful. I don't personally need to eat out as often as I did.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think my wife and I have enjoyed cooking more and just socializing in a different way. But so I think the advice would have been just really enjoy the ride as opposed to stressing about it. But
yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, that's probably good advice. And yeah, no, it's been, I can echo that. I mean, you know, we came into this thing just, you know, we have no idea what's going to happen with the physical relationships that are vital to our business. And as we've adapted and you know, adjusted and flexed, it's been more exciting than concerning. You know, now, I mean, there's a whole tragic side of this thing that is the actual, you know, people who are getting the virus itself. And I personally don't want to be one of those if I can avoid it, but the pushing us into situation that is very different, and we have to adapt our styles and techniques has been, you know, just very creative journey as we've gone along. Any final comments or thoughts just for anybody that's listening in? Last words, advice, something I haven't asked you about that you might want to get out there?
Well, I would just say in general, I think this is a good scenario in terms of maintenance departments that at times people forget how important it is that these different systems run correctly and reliably. And so if anything, I hope there does result in some focus growing on the importance of maintenance as opposed to the, I'll call it the knee-jerk reaction to we can get rid of some of those folks without as much pain. But now I'm always fighting to get the maintenance and facilities departments their proper place in their you know, role in making things work and their real impact on the bottom line. It's usually not given as much credit. So
yeah, I know for us, it's as much a religious journey as anything else. It's not my religion, but it's something that I just believe passionately makes a difference in these plants and facilities and industries. And so to get people to understand that your output, your mission is connected to how you maintain the assets that help produce that is, to me, it's just so obvious, and yet people ignore it on a regular basis, right? They allow those assets to deteriorate, and the golden goose will give up eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I always share with people that for the most part, especially in the facilities world, there are a lot of leaders, I'll pick on education here, that never signed up to be property management specialists. They really are educators or whatever their specific role is, but it was never to have leadership responsibility over a large maintenance responsibility. So at times, you really do have to challenge people to ask themselves, what does excellence look like in this area? And are we even close to it? And if not, what should we do?
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I may not have had, as a leader of a university or something, that may not have been my mission when I came in, but all of a sudden I have a campus of amazing proportions, right? And I know that some of the universities we've worked with, I mean, there are books, historic old books that have to be humidity controlled, or there are special animals that they have in a zoo type scenario where they are caring for one of the few left in the world, and you change the air handler filters, and if something bad happens, that's, we have to work together, maintenance and the university, to make sure it all happens the right way. And so they are taking care of an amazing amount of not only assets, but in many cases historic assets that they have charged for. So it's probably something they didn't read on. They had to read the fine print to see that part of it. So I guess, but
absolutely.
So Russ, I really appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me. This has been a fun, just kind of walk through what your world and your perspective. And I know you've got lots of experience in the facilities world. So I was really excited about trying to understand more about kind of what you're seeing out there in the environment with both COVID and the economic situation, and in facilities, a lot of shuttering of things, universities and things, that high schools and K through 12 type scenarios where those facilities aren't even being used at this moment. And so I was really interested in seeing how you're seeing that impact go on. So thanks a lot for spending some time with us, and wish the best to you and your team. So.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.